You might be wondering why I'm holding this fire extinguisher. Well, I'll tell you. Because of this book. It got so hot towards the end, I was afraid it was going to start a fire, and I can't have that. Hi, my name's Bea, and welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance, and apparently practice fire safety. Welcome to my first mid-month wrap-up. Why is this my first mid-month wrap-up? Because January's was way too long. I read 24 books last month, and I'm kind of on track to do that this month too, so I thought, gosh, I should just do a mid-month wrap-up. Also because I've been loving most of the books I've read, and honestly cannot wait to gush about them. Let's talk about the books I've read so far in the month of February. We have to start with my 6th star, which is Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. I'm sorry for the glare. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I bought this at Target yesterday, and I don't do that. I always get them on sale, and this was 20% off, but I think that's always the case with books at Target. Anyway, I listened to this. It was narrated by Erin Mallon. I fell in love with it so hard that when my 3-year-old and I went to Target later, I was like, I have to buy this. I was so confused. This was all over the internet recently, and I thought, oh, this must be her latest work. Then I found out that it's the 5th anniversary of the book coming out, and the fact that people are making a big deal out of a 5th anniversary, you know it's really good. So I put it on hold at the library, and when it popped up, I went ahead and listened to it. So speaking of like covers, if you like this book and you want to spend a boatload on it, Steambox, which I'm not affiliated with at all, is doing a special reprint edition for the 5th anniversary. This is what it looks like. Is this not adorable? I'm gonna link this below in case you're interested. Again, I'm not affiliated with it, but I just thought it was so neat, and I thought you guys might like to see it. But let's talk more about this book. Oh my gosh, okay. So I know this sounds strange. Maybe that's what I should name my channel. I'm gonna say something strange with Bea. All right, I'm really gonna stop doing that. If the song Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo and the song Hello by Adele had a baby and it turned into a book, it would be this book. I know that's a strange thing to say, but I feel like the emotion and the intensity and the passion that this book evokes really reminded me a lot of the feelings that I got when I listened to those songs. This book was really neat though because it's a dual timeline. I was so riveted to whatever was happening that when they went to the next chapter and jumped into the other timeline, I was like, no! I just found myself doing that like the whole book. We have Macy and Elliot. They meet as teenagers and they're both very bookish and they bond over their love of reading. And every time we jump from the past, which was when they were teenagers, to the present when they're both about to turn 30 and they meet one another again for the first time in like 11 years. You see them as teenagers growing up together and then they fall in love, but something mega happens, but we don't know what it is. And the not knowing was driving me crazy. I finished the last 6 hours of this book in one day, despite the fact that I was like, oh, I'll spread it out over the week. No, I needed to know what happened. And I was very pleasantly surprised to see that what happened was not what I thought was going to happen, which I love that. But I tell you, I did cry during this book. It was sad at parts, but it had a really happy ending. I just found Elliot's love for Macy especially to be so insanely compelling. Oh, I just don't want to give anything away, but if you don't mind an emotional read and you want love that just defies bad things that can happen, it's intense, but it was so good. And I mean, as I said, to the point where I had to buy my own copy. It's in my bones now. 6 stars. So we just talked contemporary. Let's jump back in time to historical, shall we? With When Beauty Tamed the Beast by Eloisa James. This is book 3 in her fairy tale series. And of course, we're gonna look at the step back because why not? We have Piers and, pardon my nails, I got them done and like I immediately chipped them. Oh well. And Linnet. I could not get over how Eloisa James took a story like Beauty and the Beast and she made it so much deeper, so much stronger. Piers is the beast, of course, and Linnet is the beauty. She is like the most beautiful woman in England. Piers is a doctor. He's got some big chips on his shoulder, but he hides it all behind this facade. Now, we've all seen this in a story before, right? And this is not at all surprising. Like, okay, yeah, we've got the beast. But then we have Linnet, who is this beauty, and she starts to fall for Piers because she sees him for more than than just this crotchety old hermit. But we go deeper. So trigger warning, there's an outbreak of a disease that turns everything on its head. Piers at this point has decided that he loves her, but he's not going to let her be with him because he feels like she doesn't deserve to have to deal with him for the rest of her life. He tries to turn her away, especially as the outbreak starts impacting his hospital, and he's terrified that she's going to get it. The way that he drives her away and what happens to her, I was also not expecting how she would behave, and both of them are sort of trying to hide from one another. I didn't expect to really experience the full redeeming love both of these people have for one another. It was beautiful. I didn't do this justice. If you are interested at all, I would read it. 5 stars. Okay, now let's jump to alien romance. This is another 5-star for me. It's the novella Having the Barbarian's Baby. This follows book 5 in the series. It's all about Megan and Cashel, who up to this point have not had their own book, despite the fact that they resonated and she's got a baby on the way, that it is very much on the way. And he is out there hunting as much as he can in preparation for the baby's arrival, but she knows she's due like any day. And so she's quite nervous about him being gone. As always, in one of these Ice Planet Barbarians books, we have a cinnamon roll hero who is insanely selfless, and he just wants to make Megan feel good. So he creates this cute little scavenger hunt with gifts, just trying to make her feel special and miss him less while he's gone, which I just thought was so great. It's very difficult for him to get back in time. Just the way that they interact when they become this little family just squeezed my heart. I just enjoyed it immensely. Well done, Ruby Dixon. So you know what? Let's just keep going with Ruby Dixon. So I also read Ice Ice Babies, which is the second novella that follows the 5th book. I say it every time. I feel like this is my favorite book. I mean, every one I read, I'm like, no, this is my favorite. No, this is my favorite. I mean, not every single one I've read, but close. This follows Nora and Dagesh, another couple that didn't get their own book up to this point. So I was really excited to see them. She's got twin babies that are taking up all her time, Anna and Elsa. I hear those names a lot in my house. Dagesh is really concerned about the brutal season and having enough food for his family. So he is constantly out on the hunt, making sure he's got enough food. Nora, at the same time, is really missing him. She's feeling lonely despite the fact that she's got all these friends. She just feels like, why isn't he wanting to stay with me? And is he still interested in me? And he actually literally staggered when he thought about how much he loved his twin daughters and his wife. I mean, come on! This is like catnip to me. He's staggering from love, from thinking about his cute little family. I can't even stand it. Him snuggling those babies. I didn't even know I needed something like that in my life, but oh my gosh, it was so cute. The other layers of this that I was so intrigued by is there's a woman named Asha, who a lot of people really don't like. Asha is feeling very lonely, and basically she just spends all her time alone in her cave. Nora did not realize that. So Nora feels badly for Asha. She reaches out to Asha and really tries to make Asha feel appreciated. And I loved that. And then of course Asha's willing to babysit the babies, which was really nice too. I just loved this story so much. 5 stars. Okay, let's jump into fantasy. We haven't talked about that. We've got a novella here by Grace Draven. It's book 2.7 in the Wraith King series. It's meant to be read before book 3, The Ippus King. And I'm not really sure how I didn't read it in order, because normally I'm fairly good at paying attention to order, but somehow I got lost. Anyway, it was okay. Don't worry. This book was fantastic. I didn't even know that I really needed mermaid romance in my life, but apparently I do. We have Britta. She is a widow. We're visiting the same community that we visited in Night Tide. In fact, we see some of the same characters, which was pretty fun. But Britta, she's also a musician, and she plays this incredible flute that one day angers one of the guests at a fancy party that she is playing at. And there's a mystery there that unravels slowly and then becomes really crazy. It was quite good. But the vast majority of this book takes place on the beach or in a cave beside the beach. So one day she's out harvesting seaweed and she discovers a merman and a little mer toddler girl that have both been washed ashore. He's got a big bite mark on his side. The little one is fine, but she's kind of stuck up there with him. So Britta does everything she can to help these guys get rescued, but the merman keeps coming back. His name is Aten, and initially what started as kind of a fascination between like the rescuer and the rescued becomes this shared appreciation that blooms into love. I so enjoyed watching them fall for one another, and it was beautiful. It was emotional. It was spicy too, and I loved the mystery that was unfolding. I gave this 5 stars, but my only complaint is that I wanted more. are. And so what I hope is that maybe she'll do a sequel or have them in it again, because there's definitely more to the story for these two, and I am here for it. Let's talk about my last 5-star for this video, The American Roommate Experiment. Oh man. If someone took my blood right now, like at the hospital, it wouldn't just be blood cells. You would see Lucas Martin. He's in my blood, people. This is one of those alpha mallows, I think, that Crystal of Crystal's Bookish Life was talking about when she's talking about these alpha guys who become these marshmallows for these women. He's kind of bossy, which I can only take in small doses. I am not all about the super alpha dominant guys. It does get under my skin, but I will tell you, he's just this guy. Oh my gosh, the way that this unfolded, the intensity, the passion, I found myself so many times just being like, and then I would like fall, because so many times there was an interruption and I was like, no! Like, I was so in the story and wanting to see what was going to happen. Let me explain, because so far I feel like I've barely made any sense, but it's because I'm so crazy about this book. If I didn't already own it, I would have gone out and bought it. So we have Rosie and Lucas. He is recovering after an injury of surfing, and it's really changed his whole outlook on life, because that was his life and now he can't surf anymore. So he's sort of broken, but he's there for Rosie, who is a writer, and she's coming up against a deadline. She's a romance author, by the way, and she's just out of juice. She needs a muse. And what better muse than this man? He is so musy. Yeah, that's right. I just made up that word. That's Lucas for you. He agrees to take her on these fake dates to help get the creative juices flowing. And I'm telling you, it was so good. I mean, the interest that they have in one another pretty much right off the bat. She's been pining after him for a while via Instagram, and then to actually get to be with him. The reason, by the way, that they're roommates is because her ceiling crumbles and she has to find a place to stay. So she has to end up rooming with him. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, I was not prepared for the passion that unfolded towards the last part of this book. I would have given it maybe even 6 stars, because man, it is a really good story, but the interruptions just reminded me of like a Hallmark movie. I don't know if you've seen those, where they're like just about to kiss and then somebody comes in, they're like, Dad, can I have a glass of water? And like, oh, I guess we can't kiss now. It was sort of like that for some of the book, but man, does that author make up for it later. Whoa. My point is, it was a good story and I gave it 5 stars. So I need to talk a little bit more about the fairy tale series by Eloisa James. Believe it or not, I also gave one of her novellas a 5-star in the past couple weeks, Winning the Wallflower. I just talked about this one in my proposals video because I loved his proposal and the way that he brought her family into it and the darkest parts of herself that were broken, that he helped her heal, and just, oh, I just loved it. I loved it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We have Cyrus. He's had a rough go of it because in the Tawn, his family's something of a laughingstock. His mother was of good breeding, but she ended up going with a man who was just a working man, and so no one respected her choice, but she fell madly in love. Well, Cyrus was taunted for this his entire childhood, so he's made this incredible plan. He basically has no emotions, and he's like, okay, I've got a 28-part plan, and I'm gonna become a duke, and part of his plan is to find a woman who's got a title so he can marry her and get this title. He doesn't care who it is, so he picks Lucy because Lucy needs money, and he's got a lot of money. She has been desperate because she is a tall gal, and it is difficult sometimes when you're a tall woman, and also the fact that she doesn't really have money, people aren't as interested also. So she was thrilled when Cyrus proposed, despite the fact that he seemed to have little to no interest in her. She was just willing to do whatever. Then everything turns on its head because she gets a trust from her aunt. So now she's loaded. Her mother is thrilled. She says, all right, Lucy, you don't have to be with Cyrus. You can have your pick of anyone. All the fortune hunters. Yay! I loved seeing him then be like, okay, I am going to propose for real, not just send you a letter, and I'm really going to win you this time. And he really learned to appreciate and respect her, which I loved. And as I said, the proposal at the end was everything. So 5 stars. Okay, now I need to talk about my first 4.5 star. This is a contemporary romance that has some magical realism in it. Actually, a ghost. Let's just start there. This is called Dream Lake by Lisa Kleypas. It's book 3 in the Friday Harbor series. And it follows Alex. He is the hard-bitten, hard-hearted brother of the Nolan family. He's an alcoholic. He's suffering from addiction. He is one of the meanest heroes I think I've ever read. But he uses his meanness as a device to keep people away from himself. Now, he thinks it's because he's trying to protect them. In fact, specifically Zoe, who is our heroine. She is the sweetest girl in the world, and she begins to fall for Alex against her better judgment. He tries to scare her away numerous times, but she just recognizes that he is broken, and she can't help but try to fix him. So that's what's going on that's like real world. But in the background, we have a ghost. There's a lot of mystery surrounding this ghost, so I don't want to tell you too much in case you want to read it, because I really do think it's worth a read. It reminded me a lot of like a Nicholas Sparks book. This ghost is not sure why he's there, but then he becomes tethered to Alex. What is he there to do? And can this ghost get his happily ever after? And the answer is yes, he does. And of course, Alex and Zoe do as well. I do want to mention a couple triggers too. There is death, a car accident, dementia, but I really found this to be a great story. I cried at the end. The only reason I didn't give it a full 5 stars is because there were some critical scenes for the ghost that I wish had been put into the book, but maybe I'm just being nitpicky here. It was a really good story. Oh my gosh, hot shot, let's talk about it. My love for Kristen Callahan knows no bounds. This woman, I feel like I need to read a Kristen Callahan every month because she just does such a great job. And again, I say this every time, but I love the way she describes a man's body. Woo. And I love the love story. I mean, we have Chess, she's a photographer, and she has this immediate attraction to someone she's photographing for a football calendar. His name is Finn, and he is a player. He's never had a relationship, never wants a relationship, whereas Chess only wants a relationship. So they realize right off the bat that they're not going to be a thing, but they decide to be really good friends because they really click. They just click, but they know they can't be together. Well, it was fun seeing the initial friendship and the flirting, but then something happens that causes Chess to have to move in with him. And the way he steps up to be there for her when she was hurting was just delicious. And then he needs her to pretend to be his girlfriend when he travels home so that his family will leave him alone. And man, there's some great scenes ensue after that. It was so good. I was on the edge of my seat. I loved the steaminess. I loved the way that they were trying to deny their love for one another, but then they just had to give in. It was so good. The only reason I didn't give this a full 5 stars is I felt like there were a lot of scenes at the end that just kind of made it drag on a little bit. I was like, this could have been the end. No? Okay, a little more? All right, well, this could have been the end. No? Okay, we'll do a little more. I mean, I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to say, or am I complaining? No, I'm not. I don't think I'm complaining. Anyway, my point is almost a perfect 5 stars. Very good book. Highly recommend. All right, so my last one is a 2-star read. You may have already heard me talk about this one in my 3-minute review of the second year single by Kara Tanemachi. I did not care for this book very much. I liked Jack Mann. He was a sweet boy in elementary school, and now he's become this gorgeous, gorgeous baker. And Sora is a writer. She's a freelancer. She is looking for a way to get a permanent spot with Slick magazine, which is like Cosmopolitan. It reminded me of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days initially, because she decides she's going to hashtag go solo for the month of February, and it becomes wildly popular. She writes a column every single day about her experience being single during the month of February, the month of love. She even ends up going on a talk show, like a morning show in her city of Chicago. But the problem is she bumps into her old childhood best friend, Jack Mann. They haven't seen each other in ages. He was totally in love with her. And then now that they're back in one another's lives, he is 100% ready to go for her. But she's obviously got misgivings because of hashtag go solo. Not because she doesn't have feelings for him. I loved the premise. I loved the ending. I loved how once she sorted herself out, the two of them together were so cute. I'll also mention some triggers here. There's a child who had cancer, and they talk about that quite a bit. There's a miscarriage that is discussed quite a bit. There's cheating and a heart attack. But my main problem with this, a lot of this book dealt with body image issues, people talking about how much people weighed, what size they were. There was a lot of talk about dieting and exercising and eating healthy. The main character had an obsession with bacon to the point where I was like, this is really unhealthy. I mean, she was like making bacon to eat in her car on the way to places. I'm like, that's strange. And I like bacon as much as the next person, but what? It was weird. There was all this pressure for her to lose weight or get fit before a wedding, and her mother wants her to diet with her. The dynamics of like mother, sister, daughter, weight. I mean, it was just not.
I didn't get that.
Neither did I, smartwatch. Neither did I. I had a lot of trouble enjoying this. One of the reasons that Jack fell for Sora when they were kids is because he was quote unquote overweight. So everybody made fun of him, they bullied him, they called him names, and she was the only one that didn't. And that's part of why he fell in love with her. And so there's a lot of talk about how, oh, now he's not fat and now he's so fit and look how much better he looks. And it is a whole can of worms that I probably don't need to get any further into than I already have, so I apologize. But it really riled me up. And it is a lot of the book. It's not just mentioned here and there. And I just had a really hard time liking Sora in general. Sometimes she lied to her readers. Sometimes she was impulsive or unkind to Jack. I'm glad that she grew. It was a miss for me. Okay, so that was 10 books, and I can't wait to do this again in a couple weeks because I've got at least 10 more that I'll be telling you about then. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying whatever it is you're reading, whether it's the middle of the month or some other time. Until next time, thanks so much. Take care. Bye.